Thank you, Anuradha. Thanks for this very warm welcome. Let me first congratulate the Council of Energy, Environment and Water, CEEW, for this excellent dashboard, which I just took a round of. And it's a path-breaking dashboard because it gives you a real-time feel of what's happening on ground in different states of India. And then you can create competition among states. You can create a huge competition between districts, RTOs by RTOs, on this transition. My compliments also that you're launching a report on greening India's automotive sector, and this will be again a critical report to take forward. So I've been a long-term believer that India has to be the leader in climate action. There are several challenges in terms of financing, in terms of our ability to get both public and private finance from the world, our ability to get long-term lending, our ability to get hedging instruments, our ability to structure blended finance and credit enhancement and so on. And there will be several challenges which we'll solve as we go along. But one thing is very clear, that India is climatically blessed, and India's entrepreneurship is top class. And secondly, if we do not make a technological quantum jump in transportation and mobility in particular, we will not be able to attract value, we will not be able to attract capital, and we will get behind the curve. And therefore, I've always been a believer that pushing for radical changes in sunrise areas of growth, like electric mobility, battery storage, is critical for India. It's critical to provide a better quality of life for Indian citizens. India imports almost 200 billion worth of fossil fuel. And the Prime Minister has, in his Independence Day speech a year back, said that we aim to become fossil fuel import independent by 2047. But for the transforming the transportation sector, which plays a very critical role in to address the climate change issue, 2047 is a long way off. And my belief is that our targets should be next 3 to 5 years. Actually, in the next 3 years, we should plan to make our two-wheelers 100% electric. And in the next 5 years, ensure that all our two-wheelers and three-wheelers go 100% electric. This is necessary so that we do not face the challenge of air pollution, and that we do not lose the race of becoming a manufacturing nation for two-wheelers. We are the center of two-wheelers manufacturing right now as far as combustion engines is concerned. We export, we not only produce for the domestic market, but we export. Many of our companies actually produce abroad also. We are the major exporters of two-wheelers. But the size and scale of India gives you the possibility to export. And if there's a huge transition, disruption taking place, if you do not move from being a manufacturer of combustion engine to electric engines, and if you do not move from 2,000 parts to 24 parts, then you will lose the race and other manufacturers will take over, and that disruption will be very rapid and will outpace us. And therefore, actually there's a huge focus on adoption of sustainable mobility. It's necessary not only for the domestic market, but for becoming a major player in the export market. And therefore, I am very happy that Indian Railways has actually committed to achieve net zero by 2030, which is very important. And the FAME2 scheme provides an impetus to clean mobility. We've pushed for production-linked incentive for advanced chemistry cells. We've pushed for production-linked incentive for auto sector to further accelerate EV adoption. Now, 21 states and union territories have announced their EV policies, and the battery swapping policy with interoperability standard will further boost the EV ecosystem. Now, my view is that the FAME policy is facing some challenges because of some private sector, some issues of records, etc. But I think we should work together to solve this and further accelerate the pace of two-wheeler, three-wheelers, push for it in a very big way. And I'm a long-term believer that all government vehicles should actually be electric vehicles, because that will give you the size and scale. So, why two-wheeler, three-wheelers are important? Because almost 75% of vehicles on Indian roads are actually two-wheelers, three-wheelers. And if we are able to do this transition in two-wheelers, three-wheelers, then you will make a very, very big push towards this. But in India, more than 70 million people in India actually use buses. And therefore, converting buses into electric buses is also very critical. I have been a long-term believer that cities must grow and evolve on the back of public transportation, on bus rapid transport systems, and therefore ensuring that all cities move towards electric buses and public mobility is very critical. We have at the moment only 1.2 buses per 1,000 people, but public mobility is really the backbone of a civilized society, and we have to work very strongly towards that. When I was CEO Niti Aayog, we pushed for this biggest tender of electric buses of 5,500 buses through, and the next lot of buses procurement that we are doing is about 50,000 buses, which will be the biggest in the world, electric buses through a grand challenge route. So that, and in the tender, we found that the buses, because we were doing it, the biggest tender in India resulted in prices of 5,500 buses, prices that were 27% cheaper than diesel without subsidy and 23% cheaper than CNG. So when you are able to put the requirement of all states together and do a large tender, you are able to bring down the prices, and that's critical. Now, with the price discovery and the global acceptance, we have actually set out this very ambitious target of 50,000 buses, which is on the right track, and the sheer scale of India's public sector buses needs about almost 10 billion for 50,000 buses over the rest of this decade. And it's a huge financing opportunity. The banks, multi-developmental banks, asset managers, or even asset owner, they all need to play a pivotal role, because eventually all these will be on O&M basis. And financing is, to my mind, really the key, because there is the challenge is that two-wheelers, three-wheelers also, there's no electric mobility. We've not been able to build up a resale market as yet. And because there's lack of a resale market, the interest rates are very high even now. And that's why there's a need for a first loss guarantee mechanism to kick in, or there's some need for some kind of a a credit enhancement mechanism which World Bank has been working on, which we need to push through very rapidly. And private finance along with public finance is really the need of identifying right instruments like blended finance, mitigating the right hedging mechanisms are required, first loss guarantees are required, and developing the right credit-based instruments which will enable India to leapfrog from traditional fossil fuel-based transportation to electric vehicles is really the key. My view is that we've pushed for battery swapping, we've pushed for a production-linked incentive policy for electric vehicles and for innovative vehicles. We've pushed for also in a very big way, we've pushed for large-scale ensuring that we are able to drive size and scale in India. Long term, my view is that for long distance transport, buses, etc., green hydrogen will be the right route. Battery is required for two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and four-wheelers, but for long distance transport, long term, green hydrogen will be the right route to take. Green hydrogen, we are pushing very hard. The green hydrogen mission has been announced. Our price of renewables is low. We have good entrepreneurship. The objective is to really drive down prices of green hydrogen from $4.5 per kilogram to $2 and then to $1 per kilogram by 2030. This would require a lot of skills to be able to push this. It will require really top-class entrepreneurship. It will require a lot of good pump storage. And pump storage I'm a great believer in because it's all make in India. It has 100 years of life. There's no import of lithium, cobalt, or nickel. And therefore, green hydrogen, when you're able to link up solar, wind with pump storage, you'll get the cheapest cost of producing renewable energy 24/7, which can feed into the grid, and that will be important. My other view is that if we need to push for this in a very big way, the government as a policy measure needs to also have a very clear target, and that is that we need to push a lot of fast chargers into the market. And my view is that in the next 3 to 4 years, our target should be that we put out over about 1 lakh of chargers into the market. All Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, every municipal commissioner, his target should be to put out electric chargers into the market. And that will help us in a very big way to really, so at least the country as a whole should target for about, in the next 5 years, my view is that we should have target for 5 million fast chargers to adopt EVs in the next 5 years. And that's instead of importing fast chargers, we need to push localization content in the manufacturing with megawatt hour charging. And this is possible because now Tesla has opened up its chargers IP for buses and commercial vehicles, so we can do fast chargers, which is a very good thing that's opened it up for fast charging. Secondly, I'm a long-term believer that advanced chemistry cell battery storage is critical. We've used the PLI scheme, but if you look at the capacity around the world, it's surpassing over 500 gigawatts. We've done about 30 gigawatts through the PLI scheme. This needs to be expanded, and localization should happen on large scale, because in the absence of localization, India will become the assembly house of finished products for cell manufacturing. With advanced technologies, we need to push this up further in a big way. Thirdly, I'm of the belief that there is a huge focus needs to be laid on repurposing and recycling of advanced chemistry cell batteries. Lithium-based batteries need a disposal policy, and there's a big business opportunity for all of you there. We need to repurpose and recycle them on giga scale, and that incentive program for doing this on giga scale will drive innovation, which is very, very critical. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm of the belief uh, that national competitiveness will not just be a function of labor, capital, and technology, but will also be a function of sustainability. Export markets will increasingly be conscious of carbon footprints. If India is to penetrate global value chains, sustainable production and supply chains will be very, very critical. And building our domestic capabilities in electric mobility, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, becoming the global champion in two-wheelers, three-wheelers, also in buses manufacturing. You know, if we are able to push through 50,000 buses for cities, means you will become the manufacturing center. Will make you a huge global champion. And therefore, if we are able to drive growth in these sectors, our investments in green technologies will ensure that India shows the world a completely new development paradigm, and India's green growth model in transportation can then be an example for the world to emulate. So start with two-wheelers, three-wheelers, in the next 5 years, make them all 100% green. Go for buses in a big way, and 50,000 buses tender will bring down the cost of production, but do this all with local manufacturing, and similarly, simultaneously push for fast chargers, over 5 million chargers in all your cities in the next 5 years, repurpose all your batteries and recycle them for the domestic market. That is my view as far as the mobility sector is concerned, and that this vision, this long-term vision, can be transformational not only for India but for the world, because if India brings the size and scale, we'll create a new sustainable model for the rest of the world. Thank you.